Every day we wait, they get stronger.
Let's take them by surprise.
For the greater good.
Call it what you will.
Let's call it war.
Hello and welcome to Going Road Exposed Network's after show, where we break down, discuss each and every episode of Andor, the Disney Plus original Star Wars series. This week we are discussing episode 7, 8, and 9, Messenger. Who are you? Welcome to the Rebellion. My name is Dylan Blight. Joining me, Ashley Hobley.
Hey Dylan, excited to be here on the penultimate episodes of Andor.
Crazy.
Yep.
Something this good comes and then goes as fast, you know?
You know, sometimes the best things burn brightly.
Burn
out fast.
Really do. Look, I don't think I really need to ask you how good was this?
It was so good.
Yeah.
Just next level.
Yeah, you get like halfway through episode 2 and I'm like, this is the shit. Like, I was like, this is that Emmy nominated shit.
Yeah, and then the third episode was like all the stuff that we'd been talking about, what was going to go down. So,
yeah,
very exciting.
It's very fucking good. But I mean, yeah, what are your overall thoughts? I guess like these 3 episodes.
I mean, yeah, incredible. Obviously, we get a full, kind of conclusion to this Ghorman story. Again, kind of like his heavy rebellion story. But then we also get all these characters kind of falling into place before we know how they end up in Rogue One. So, yeah. Very cool. Like, obviously, you kind of got but I think we as viewers knew what was going to come as it was playing out, but still watching it and like not being able to stop it anyway was kind of intense,
Yeah, it's just fantastic stuff. I think that was part of my brain, like coming into the season, just knowing it would be jumping ahead every 3 episodes. Going, will that get annoying? Like,
will that get frustrating?
Will that get frustrating? Yeah. Coming into episode 7, I was 5 minutes into that episode, and just like every week, just you spend that first like 5-10 minutes just getting a grasp on where we are 1 year later. Yeah. And I'm like, no, it's annoyingly it is like we're getting a movie every week. And just jumps ahead and it tells its own little tale. So, but yeah, the way these 3 episodes wrapped up the Ghorman story, and I think the biggest achievement of it, I think, is that they have managed to insert something into Star Wars's most full story period and covered period, and they've managed to somehow insert something that will now be such a integral part of the law and rebellion and stuff. And look, the Ghorman massacre again mentioned in Legends, but it's about the Tarkin thing, right? So when they were in Legends, they refer to Ghorman massacre. They refer to that Tarkin landing the ship on people, which they kept in this, interestingly, as a past thing. Now, I knew that the Ghorman massacre would still happen solely because it's mentioned by Mon Mothma in Rebels when, after the events of Episode 9, when she's then picked up by the crew of the Ghost, who take her to Yavin, is how that plays out. So, and she does her new speech that they're listening to, and she mentions the Ghorman massacre. Yeah. So
the rebels are flying her into Yavin.
Yeah, so the rebels, I'd have to rewatch the episode in full. I don't think they're the ones so she's meant to be picked up by other people, but I think something goes wrong and then they send in the crew to help save the day sort of thing. And they end up picking up Mon Mothma.
Cassian does all this work, and then the rebels did not fuck it up.
Yeah. So there's this, and then in that speech that they watch, which I guess they're trying to like they wanted to. Mon Mothma's speech in this is different to the one that you see her give in Rebels, that you see the Rebels crew watching. However, I think they tried to do two things here, which is they still wanted Mon Mothma to be able to. Well, I guess it's less about Mon Mothma and it's kind of more about being able to give Genevieve O'Reilly that moment to do the speech, I guess, in this. So they do a new speech, but then they have that line at the end where they're like, we're going to re-record one to send out to everyone. So then presumably that's the one that's seen in Rebels. So they keep both.
Well, I think they're two different speeches, right?
They are two different speeches, yeah, but they managed to like do that thing where they carefully like make sure that both things still exist, sort of thing, yeah. Let's attempt to, as we do every week, attempt to go through these three episodes as best as we can. So episode 3, Messenger. We're now BBY2. Starts on Yavin 4.
Technically, it's episode 7.
What did I say?
3.
Did I? Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's episode 7. Sorry. And it starts BBY2. Yes. Starts on Yavin 4. Now fully a
full base. They got rid of all the creatures. Maybe.
They could still be out there.
They could still be out there. Same as that crew. Just battling, like arguing between themselves still. Several years later.
I think straight away the most interesting thing is just that we get to see a little bit more outside of that. You know, we've seen under that like 50 square meter area,
that landing pad
base, landing pad, that's well covered. You know, Cassian having his little house set up into the woods there. That's new. You know, that's uncharted territory. So that was cool to see. Obviously it's sort of implied that they've taken something of a step back from Luthen's side of the fight, and they've been working more with the crew gathering here at Yavin with the more uniformed approach to it, while not being utmost fully committed to it just yet. They're still sort of 1 foot in, 1 foot out on that, which becomes a big part of these 3 episodes, of course.
Yep.
Will is arriving here at the start of the episode after he got high with Saul Guerrera a year ago.
Yep.
Good for him. So he basically comes with the message that Dedra has been spotted on Ghorman. Hey, this bitch.
Yeah.
I mean, more or less says,
she is the author of all your pain. No.
Yeah. More or less. Then does the whole I swear it's not revenge thing when we know it's 100% that. Like,
yeah. Sure, she's like heavily involved in whatever's happening in Ghorman, but revenge, let's be honest.
Yeah, 100%. Cassian isn't loving the idea because Cassian's still in this, I want to settle down, I'm too worried about Bix, I just want to live a normal life and pretend this stuff isn't happening part, which
I've done my share, you know.
Yeah.
I've done enough.
They should just let me retire, basically.
Yeah.
Even though the fight's still barely getting started, as we know.
Yes.
Cassian's also got a blaster wound at some point between the last year. Really fucked up one that's not healing properly. And Bix takes and introduces, and this is one of the weirder things, I guess, in these episodes. Bix takes him to like an area where there's someone who's, well, they're force sensitive to a degree, is what's implied. She senses them, walks over, says that Cassian's the messenger or something along those lines.
Yeah.
Heals his wound, is very weird and mysterious, talks to Bix for a while, And then
Cassian very uninterested in non-believing.
Yeah, Cassian's super non-believing in any and all possibilities. What did you make of this particular scene in this show, which, until now, Force, never heard of her, you know what I mean?
No, yeah. I mean, it would be like, any kind of like snake oil salesman you would believe, like, any fortune teller or any like that occultish related person, you would just kind of, if you are a man of science or, that kind of engineering, that kind of thing, you would stay clear because it doesn't fit with your belief structure.
Why do you think they chose to include this in the show?
I think it was to like kind of set Bix down the path of where she ends up at the end of the 3-episode arc. Planting in her mind that Cassian is meant for greater things and that, maybe she is holding him back.
They could have had someone else plant that and have that speech of her, someone, a close friend or anything like that. It's a specific choice to make it someone force sensitive, So I guess it's just like,
I mean, also it adds to the world, and obviously in Rogue One we get a bunch of Force people as well, so,
Yeah, I think I just took it as it's this, especially when this show's more like a war series or, that sort of thing. It implants like some sort of like religious element almost. Like, you got believers and non-believers and that sort of stuff, which then goes through to Rogue One with
Donnie Yen.
Donnie Yen and can't remember the guy's name, sorry. But yeah, the one that spoiled everything on that Star Wars Celebration panel. Did you ever see that?
No, I don't think so.
It's up there, those classic, just why people should get media training before. He's like doing the Star Wars Celebration thing before, months before the movie comes out. He was up there and he's like, yeah, and we all die. And then Donnie Yen like slaps his leg.
I mean, no, it wasn't exactly a secret, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but I mean, it was funny though. So Cassian and will take a ship the following morning, I think it is. They head over to Ghorman.
Yes, but they're stopped briefly.
They're stopped briefly by old mate from Rogue One. I can't remember his name.
General Draven.
Draven, that's it.
Played by Alistair Petrie, who people would probably best know for Sex Education.
Good point. Sex Education. Good to see him in this. Another just carrying us into the Rogue One timeline properly. Obviously, he's a prominent character in that. So he says more or less when they're trying to leave that, you can't do this, you're either here or you're not here, sort of thing. Cassian has this line about, if I can't leave and come and go as I plead, then I'll never come back. Like, again, just they're not fully committed to what they're trying to set up there on Yavin. Yeah. The uniformed front
structure and
Rebel Alliance.
The kind of stuff. They still very much want to work in the shadows and do that kind of stuff. So
he's been going through what, he's more used to the Luthen way, so a bunch of secretive missions handed, if you choose to accept this mission sort of structure to everything. But they head off to Ghorman. They get there. It's pretty funny watching him fly in, just with the Will tells him he has to fly low, and we get to see Cassian proving his flying skills by flying very freaking low and having a good time while doing it. I think also you see a bit of a smirk on his face, which was fun. And he's flying his proper carrier that he'll fly in Rogue One as well. The same ship. So on Ghorman, it's a year later. It's a lot worse. We straight away see more troops positioned, the courtyard barricaded off now. But I guess most prominently, and will be a thing over the next 2 episodes, is the Fox News anchors set up all around the area there, spreading propaganda on what's happening each day. That the Ghorman people are doing this, and the good people of the Imperial Empire. They're trying to do good, and all these things are happening. Empire, or the Emperor, has decided to pull the plug, though. Dedra and Syril have a little quick conversation. Cyril's very confused about what's going on. Dedra tells him to go home and get ready for an evacuation, more or less. You can tell he's a little bit like, what the fuck is, like, he's starting to click on to there's more at play here than what he initially may have thought. Cassian checks into a hotel, talks to I think that dude was in last. He was the dude he talked to last time he got there, I think. The little hotel dude, or whatever. And then Will heads off and joins with the Rebel Alliance there on Ghorman. Yeah. And Cassian checks out everything from the hotel, and there's Imperial soldiers everywhere gathering, all there for what's about to go down the next day, which we'll get to shortly in the next episode. The only other thing I had down, I guess, to note this episode is that we do get a visit from Vel, Mothma's cousin, who visits Bix at the end of this episode and says that she's not there looking for Cassian. She's there to see Bix and more or less try and convince her to get Cassian to stop fucking around and be a leader.
Yeah.
Anything this episode on this?
I mean, the other interesting thing is we kind of get to start to see Syril kind of, he's kind of gone native, I guess is the way to put it. Like, he's become attached to these rebels. He doesn't want anything bad to happen to them. Which,
I think he's starting
to
see past the Empire's lies, I guess.
Yeah. Which is interesting.
Next episode, Who Are You? Pretty much, I think, is it all on? I think it's all on Ghorman. I don't think we ever
pretty much. I don't recall them cutting away.
I don't recall cutting away from Ghorman, which makes sense given what happens this episode. Cassian wakes up in the morning. He's trying to check out. He straight away trying to check out what's going on. Sees them moving all the barricades. The Imperial forces moving all these barricades to around the tower. Rings for Will. Everyone there at the rebellion's like, oh, they're moving the barricades out of the way. We're going to be able to get to the courtyard quick. Let's gather our shit and go.
Hey, they're giving us room. Let's go.
Let's go
protest peacefully in front of it.
Yeah,
because it certainly isn't some sort of trap in any sort of way that they move all this stuff.
Trap. Yeah. Cassian straight away like, I'm sort of checking out this shit. There's no way I'm going to be able to get a shot Dedra with all this going on and whatever else. So heads downstairs. He gets the line.
Rebellions are built on hope.
Yeah. He gets that delivered to him from the kid working at the hotel.
The kid who was the kid that he met the previous time he was on Ghorman. Who first told him originally about the original massacre and that kind of stuff. So
yes. Yeah. And he's lived there his whole life, and now he's about to see another one. So
yeah.
Yep. What a life. Pretty much, yeah. So people begin gathering, just marching towards the court. Cassian's sort of hanging around, trying to wait for Will to get there so he can meet up with him, and presumably so they can just both leave together. There's an odd moment where we get to see Syril, who's asked to come back to the tower. All Imperial forces are to report there. He walks past Cassian, doesn't see him at this point, which I was like, oh, maybe they'll never bump into each other. Little did I know how this episode would play out. We even get to see a little bit of Dedra feeling, I guess, played.
She's a little bit frustrated because, it's not going the way she kind of wanted it to go.
No.
Where it was a little less outright murdering people, I guess. She was hoping to do a little bit more subterfuge. Like kind of get more people to turn against the rebels, I guess.
She was hoping if she planted the seeds that the rebels would just start a war, more or less, and then that would be that.
Yeah.
I think. But what they're planning and what we see play out is
it's obvious that the Empire's behind.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot that happens. It's this episode, like, there's a lot, but a lot of it's just watching what happens and less, I guess. Like, yeah. I mean, I could very quickly. It's everyone starts gathering in the square circle, whatever we're calling that. Again, Cassian just hangs around for a while. We see when Syril's on his way there, he bumps into the dude,
the head guy.
We thought we was in charge of the rebellion,
who has realized that it's a trap.
Yeah, he knows
tries to tell people to not go.
Yeah, he also seems to have no power in what he started.
I mean,
2 years prior at this point. Very much involved in getting Cassian there in that first trip and all the initial rebel discussions and stuff, but now just seems to have no say in it at all. His daughter and other people seem to be leading the charge. So, but yeah, realizes it's trap, tries to stop it, can't do shit. Gets really shitty at Syril. Syril throws him on the ground. So,
Syril's still kind of oblivious to the scale of what he's involved in.
He's on a one-man mission to march his way up to speak to Dedra, is what he is, which is more or less what he does. So he marches past everyone, past the...
I will say we missed. Dedra actually kissed Syril last episode, which I think is the first piece of actual, like, on-screen affection between the two. Only to be followed up with what happens in this episode.
Yeah. Comes and goes,
Life comes in fast.
Life does come in fast. So he marches. Yeah, everyone's covering the crowd. He sort of gets his way through him. He heads in there. He gets put into a calm down room for 5 minutes or whatever the hell's going on.
With all the KX bots.
KX droids, yeah.
Including one that's just staring at him.
Yeah, definitely not K2SO. I don't know. Might be.
It might be.
Who's to say? Then he runs upstairs, basically goes to Dedra, says, "What have you done?" Really not willing to play ball with her. Like, just chokes her to get the information out. She admits to, we're going to this whole plan. This is going to be great. We're going to get to go home soon. The Empire was going to do this with or without us. It's, very like, just blame game, pushing to the side. It was going to happen either way.
Well, explaining exactly what's happening. And then Cyril's like, no, I can't believe you did this or anything. And Dedra's like, well, you were on board with all the promotions and everything that came along with it. He's finally growing a conscience now at this point, late stage,
And then he just walks out to the...
And just wanders around with no obvious goal.
I don't know what he thinks. He's just in shock. He's just...
I think he's just in shock. Yeah.
Everything...
Guilt.
He's guilt for what's happening. He doesn't... The sheen of the Empire... Not so shiny, he's very confused about his life choices, I think, at this moment.
Yes, it would have been very interesting to see what would have happened to Syril if he didn't see one particular person in the crowd.
Well, yeah, nonetheless. So then we see... I thought it was really interesting. You got that one dude who sees everyone pass around the Molotov cocktails and everything, and he sort of wants to, I think, at least that's how I took it, is he wants to try and keep this as not from breaking into violence as possible. Yeah. So he starts singing, which I assume is like their national anthem or some sort of song like along those lines.
I'm not 100% sure now that it is French that they're speaking in. I'll be interested to see behind the scenes whether they invented a language that they're singing in.
Definitely sounds French, doesn't it, though?
I mean, it sounds French, but I don't think it would. Like, it would be kind of weird if it was French. I don't know.
So then they break out, and I think it's a lot more peaceful, I guess, sounding as a protest then, because the protest they were doing before was definitely had that more aggressive tone to it, especially people passing Molotovs. Now it's more of the holding hands and singing about how, where people we stand, but you would, just basically sing what sounds like the national or planet song, whatever we're calling it. But doesn't matter because there's already someone in position to cause the fight. We'd previously seen this group of people that Dedra just said, "Oh, these are all kids. What's with this group?" And even I was like, "Man, is this just showing how the Empire's having to reduce to getting such young soldiers now?" Which they are, but not really. It's just they're meant to be completely green because they get marched out there to do the job of being pawns. They marched out there to.
They're there to pretty much get beaten up and killed.
Yep. And one of them by their own, because there's a sniper planted on the roof, and when Dedra says go ahead with the plan, she at the end of the day she's the one that says it, so she is the one pulling the trigger. And then they shoot one of the Imperial soldiers, which causes a ripple effect because of course they think it's the Ghormans, and then they start shooting people. The one dude hanging off the statue first, and then all hell breaks loose at this stage. People are everywhere.
Yep.
People are dying everywhere. There's lots of characters we've seen for the last couple episodes just dying everywhere.
A lot of the rebels, yeah.
Intense is how I would describe the 15 or so, 15, 20 minutes of
just
this.
Firing and guns go off, and then they send the bots out, just flinging people everywhere.
Mm-hmm. And amidst it all, Syril, who seems lost amongst it all, standing there in the middle of the courtyard, somehow not getting hit by anything. He spots Cassian, who is lining up to shoot Dedra, and he saves her, not because inadvertently, but simply because Syril sees Cassian, and this is the man who ruined his life, and
who set him on the path to this moment.
Yes, exactly. And he beats the shit out of him, nearly has the upper hand on Cassian at one part. They end up on the floor, grenade goes off, flown off, but then Syril has Cassian's gun, points at that. Cassian turns to him and says, "Who are you?" And I think in that moment, for a split second, I like to think that Syril realized that this was a very one-sided grudge match that he's had playing in his head for years. Cassian has no idea who he is.
Never even thought about him once.
No. I think, because obviously he's then shot by old mate who
the head of the rebellion
chucked on the ground before, the dude who at least used to be head of the rebellion. I do like to think it looked like he was about to drop the gun. Like he had, with Cassian saying, not even realizing who he is, like he might have had a realization then that he's driven by this revenge story that is just not worth anything, or is, pointless, but doesn't matter. Dead anyway.
His potential redemption snuffed out in a moment.
Yep. I mean, how do you feel the way Syril went out?
I mean, it was surprising because obviously we've got it's episode 8 of 12, like a major character that we've been following this since the beginning of the show. Snuffed out,
Made sense.
Yeah, I mean, sad, but also, it wasn't a satisfying death. You know what I mean? It wasn't satisfying like the way we kind of hoped it would be satisfying at the end of last season. You know what I mean?
I mean, isn't that the best thing the show done? Is that they could have kept that Syril as the most annoying character that we hated right up until this moment, and we could have watched him die, and we could have been like, hell yeah, I'm so glad he's dead. But instead, they spend the last episode or last 2 episodes building something into him and then making us sort of feel bad for him. Like,
I mean, really, because it's not all black and white. Obviously, we see later Dedra like kind of breaking down, I guess, a little bit, or showing some human emotion, which is against her, what she's meant to be doing. So
very stoic. Cassian and Will meet up. They attempt to escape after this. Then chased down by a KX droid.
Yes.
Who nearly kills them. Saved by the dude who
killed Sintra.
Yep. Last week. So I guess if you want to track down the event cycle that leads to the Rogue One mission actually being successful, they need this droid for that mission to be successful, which they wouldn't have if that dude hadn't have hit it, which he wouldn't have potentially if he hadn't have killed her. That set him on the path he's on now on. If you want to do that,
maybe,
string theory, yeah.
I think there's a pretty good chance they still could have hit that car if Sintra had lived.
Cause and effect.
Yeah, I know.
Cause and effect.
Maybe Sintra and Val would have stuck around. You know what I mean?
Who knows? So Will's gonna head off to the base because he's
listen. Fucking girl. Will. Every single planet they pop into, they're meant to be undercover, but he's fucking everybody. You know what I mean? Who do you think he is? James Bond? Got to get a love interest every single planet?
He's a player.
Ridiculous.
Dick is what he's thinking of. Yeah, true. Cassian takes the droid, though, the KX droid.
Yes.
Asks for help first because I'm sure it's heavy, so sticks in the back of his the truck he takes off in. Yeah. And as he's driving off to his escape, he's just listening to the
Will's love interest on the radio, sending out please over the radio.
Single tear coming down his face. Fantastic ending.
Oh yeah, absolutely devastating.
Strong stuff. Very, very strong stuff. We then go into the 9th episode, which starts on Coruscant with pretty
the Ghorman
much
senator being arrested, right? That's how it opens.
Yeah, Ghorman senator being arrested because of what happened in Ghorman. So it's like more or less 24 hours later, or that they or that evening, or however time plays out, I don't know. But so Ghorman senator placed under arrest. He's screaming about how this will happen to everyone else if they're not careful, all these sorts of stuff. Mothma straight away talking to Bail Organa about how something has to be done now, or something has to be said. This has gone too far. Someone needs to take a stand. Tries to talk him into doing something with her, and then leaving to go to Yavin with her together. But he says no, it's not his time. He still needs to stay there to help. They're not ready. The group on Yavin aren't ready to make their stand yet.
They need to stall the Empire, I guess. That's what he wants to stick around to do.
Yeah, but he agrees that yes, someone needs to do something, and she needs to go there to help lead. Now is the time to do that. So he says, practice your speech, get it right. I'll make more or less. He says, I'll get you time to speak tomorrow.
Get you out.
Somehow, but not anyone's just allowed to speak. He's going to do something to do that. Cassian is with, I can't remember the character's name, but Luthen's the partner.
Kayla,
yeah, there we go. Claya,
that's it.
Claya. Yeah.
Also, apparently the Ghorman language was invented.
There you go. It sounds very French, though.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And definitely French inspired, I feel. France.
Well, I mean, there were definitely Les Mis vibes during that riot.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Very much, yeah. So he's like, she's doing an ID for him, talking about the mission to save Mon the following day after she does her speech. He's talking about already this is his last mission. He's going to retire, all this sort of stuff. Blah, 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 blah. Because again, he just wants to, he's out. He's tired.
Yeah.
He's sick of it.
He's exhausted.
She throws back, pretty much throws it all in his face and says, yeah, well, too fucking bad, buddy. Like, the shit's still happening. You don't just get to, there's nowhere in the galaxy you can sort of just relax and rest. You're about to save this senator who's putting her life at risk to.
I think it's here where, I think it's her who says it. He says, I want to make my own choices. She says, I think that's what we're fighting for.
That's what we're fighting for, yeah. Yeah, so we then, Mon is inside her office, I guess, inside the building, and her assistant sweeping it for bugs, finds one, stamps that out, and then we get to see the ISB is trying to work out what the hell's going on with there.
Like, what? It just suddenly died? That's really
suddenly
weird.
died. That's really weird. Yeah, it's on our material.
At no point did they think, oh, they found it.
Yeah, no, definitely not even a concept to them, apparently. We then have this thing introduced where she goes outside to work on her speech while her place is getting scanned. Luthen shows up, says that he knows everything about Bale's people trying to rescue her, that there's something like that's not tight.
Something's
like
wrong with it.
Something's wrong there. There's someone working for the other side, more or less, is what he implies in that. So don't do that. He says, I'll send a guy I can trust. He'll say, you know, I've got friends all over the world, or whatever the hell he says. I can't remember.
Yes.
I've got friends everywhere.
He also reveals that Mon's assistant has been working for him.
Reveals Mon's assistant
since they connected at the wedding in the first batch of episodes.
Yeah, which she does not like. And when she gets back, quickly fires him. And he's very gracious about it all and just says, it was an honor working for you, and leaves.
Yeah.
And stuff. The following morning, after all this, they still don't really know what's going to how anything
how it's going to.
They have no idea. They have no idea how, if she's still doing a speech, when's happening, all this sort of stuff. So we have 3 people coming from Bale's side. We see coming into the Senate there, the Senate building, I guess, and we see obviously Andor coming in as well. Andor meets up with old mate who was fired, helps him get through to the Senate main area, and then we get to see that, of course, one of the 3 people Bale was, as Luthen thought, a ISB agent. She reveals herself killing one of her dudes and so on and so forth. Hold on. Bail Organa, basically, he gets the stage, figurative stage, invokes code 1734, which something. Anyway.
This Senate is very convoluted.
Yeah.
You know? And obviously we've been hearing, as this has been happening, we've been hearing speeches from very pro-Empire people about how...
only letting certain people will talk.
How sad it is that all the Empire... you know, how the Empire was attacked by the Ghorman rebels. And
we saw at the start of the episode another one of the news stories, and even at the end of last week's episode.
We saw Syril's mum.
Syril's mum watching the propaganda story and crying, presumably knowing her son's either there or already having heard news that he's dead. Yeah. It's like, the forces, the erupts, our brave Imperial soldiers, you know, all this absolute nonsense. Mothma does her speech. What do you think of the speech?
Good speech. You know, for what was needed at the moment, you know, in this universe, you know, very powerful. You know, very fitting with all the other kind of rebellion speeches we've heard throughout the series.
Calls out the Emperor directly.
Yeah, before she's cut off.
Yep, right before she's cut off. And then we have where Andor comes in, says the line, they get together.
Just, I have friends everywhere.
Yeah. Now, I'm like, how the fuck are they getting out here this whole time? You know, to be honest, I was like, let's see how this is going to play out. When they get down to the first level, though, of course, the ISB agent, double coat agent, attempts to stop him. Cassian shoots her. Now, I like this moment because it's the first time that Mothma's had to see the violence needed for this war directly. Something that Cassian has, of course, become accustomed to participating in and seeing. But Mothma, up until this stage, has been just, she's for the cause, but she's not there seeing what's happening.
She never had to see how the sausage was made. You know?
Yeah, 100%. So that was really interesting. She's, you know, I can't believe you killed. And they attempt to go down to the shipyard or whatever.
The loading bay, but there's stormtroopers all over the place.
They turned around. They're shutting the building down. She gets outside, and then, again, another moment where her driver's walking towards them.
Which is another interesting thing, because the driver's been listening to her speech, and it appears like he's been moved by what she said, even though he's a spy for the ISB. And he goes looking for them.
Don't know what he was going to do, but...
No, But, you know, you put the seed of doubt that it wasn't going to rat them out, you know?
So we'll never know, because she says, he's definitely an ISB plan. And what's his name? And then Cassian just, so-and-so, bang, dead.
The moment that he does that is kind of very reminiscent of how he kills that person in Rogue One at the start of he takes out his informant.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and I guess like over the course of this show, like we've seen him become
a killer.
Like he's gone from a lot more, every death sort of. Now he's definitely at that. That he's now at that stage where we see him in Rogue One, where he's willing to kill his own informant to protect himself and the rebellion. I guess
the mission. Yeah,
the mission. Yeah. Takes off with the car, drives it super fast. Mon's never drove
off-road
that fast in life.
over the fountain.
Strap in, baby.
Yep.
They go to the safe house that the
last batch of episodes,
the last batch of episodes where they were living in the year prior. Will is there somehow alive. He's got a fucked up leg though.
I believe he's got a wound, but it's gone straight through, is what was said. Yeah,
he not doing great. Needs a proper doctor. So
yep.
And his girlfriend's also made it through as well. No idea if anyone else has made it off Ghorman.
No,
but
maybe they're still there trying to rebel against the mining efforts.
Yeah. Go back to so then we leave Mon there, and then as I was saying at the start of the episode, she'll eventually end up with the crew of the Ghost in Star Wars Rebels, and she does another speech which you can watch on YouTube if you want. Just type look that up if you'd like instead of watching the whole episode.
She does ask Cassian how she can ever repay him for what she's done. He says, just make it worth it. Which I think, great line. It's simple but great.
And then, Cassian ends up back on Yavin. Goes to meet up and talk with. Bix.
Yeah,
and they talk for a bit, and everything, you can tell everything's not going to be okay. And then overnight, she more or less records a message that says,
he just says, this is what we're going to do. We're going to retire. We're going to go away from all this. I don't want to fight anymore. We're not going to fight anymore. Put it, it was not a conversation. It was a laying down the law, which, even though he questioned, it wasn't like a sexist thing. She was like, oh, I'm listening. I think it was pretty clear she'd made up her mind what she was going to do already. And she pretty much drugged him.
She did what
gave him the sleepy tea.
Yeah, she did what was necessary. So how do you feel after saying that she was going to die?
I don't know. I feel maybe her dying would have been less sad.
Less sad, yeah.
Than her actively choosing to leave Cassian and then being like, when the war is over, I'll find you. And then knowing he's not going to make.
Yeah, that's what makes it sad.
Yeah, so hopefully, I don't know what their plans are for these last few episodes, but I really hope we see these characters post the Empire, at least for a snippet.
Is that what you're hoping? Maybe the final episodes? Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe, I don't know. Or they need to they need to do something else. Come on, Star Wars. You haven't got anything else in the works.
Also, the only other thing of note here is, and I had to look up the dude's name because I couldn't remember the character's name, but is that we get to see
there's some sort of weapon inventory for some reason. Yeah,
there's a weapon inventory, and I don't get why that particular. I blinked and missed what the particular gun had it on, or why it's held up. But what's her name? Belle holds up the pistol blaster, which.
So I'm reading from a comment on Reddit. She recognizes the blaster because Cassian had it before the Aldhani raid when she ordered Screen to search his belongings. It was originally Syril's blaster that he stole from him in season 1, episode 3.
Gotcha. And the dude who it belongs to is Bruce Scott Maleshi, who is from the prison arc of season 1, which is where you're saying he got the blaster from Andor.
Yeah,
But
so
also-
Cassian gave Melshi the blaster after retrieving the box it was in from his hotel room in Diamos.
Yeah.
They went their separate ways, yeah.
which they go their separate ways, but then with ever since he showed up there, people have wondered how he ends up from there to Rogue One, and now we
know. He just rocked up on Yavin 4 one day.
Yeah. Well, I guess the implication is that Cassian inspires him to rebel, right? That's and here he is. So yeah. Again, this show does, I think, cameo Easter eggs the right way.
I mean, this was a very odd cameo Easter egg. And
Yeah,
I
but
can
they-
only assume he's going to be a figure in these last 3 episodes.
Maybe not. I think it works in 2 ways. It's like he was a prominent character for 3 episodes in season 1, and now, and people like we knew he had to get back here for Rogue One, so it's just like a little. I don't think he'll be in it.
Yeah.
It may or may not be in the next 3 episodes, I guess. I think I got everything right. I don't know. Did I miss anything?
Yeah, so we get
KTOSO at the end of the episode, I guess.
yes, we get KTOSO. Them like very Frankenstein-esque, bringing him back to life with several weapons trained on him because he is a serious threat. If he's
Deservingly.
not good.
Yeah.
So yeah, what a whiplash, heartbreak of Bix leaving and Cassian unable to do anything and have to deal with it, and then we get this beloved character introduced.
Have I offended you in some way?
If not, could you please point that somewhere else?
What a polite droid,
For now.
For now, yeah. Yes, now 3 episodes left.
1 more week to wait.
Crazy. Do you reckon you're going to watch Rogue One after it's done? Well, not after it's done, because
no, we have to record this and then wait.
do you reckon?
I know. Do you want to do a follow-up episode?
Possibly. I feel like
how we feel about Cassian in that.
Yeah, I feel like I will want to watch it. Yeah, I feel like I'll want to watch it. Anything else this week before we wrap up?
No, I just, do you have any speculation about these last 3 episodes? Who do you think we're going to see again? What is Luthen's fate going to be?
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, I think Luthen just dies still. I think he's almost in, like, he's set on dying there based on his conversation with Cassian. I feel like he has to. He's like, no, I must go down with my ship sort of mentality. Like escaping to Yavin or whatever isn't something that he considers an option.
No, he doesn't want to be. Being on Yavin doesn't seem like his style, working with all these other people. So.
Otherwise, though, I mean, it is. I don't know. I guess the next 3 episodes would have to. It has to lead in the Rogue One directly, is the whole thing, which I guess we would start. Like, it has to be some sort of mission that leads them onto the, like, needing to find Genuso and all. Like, that's. I think that's the road we're going, right? Like, they have to wrap up the last few stories here while. I mean, the thing is, honestly, by the end of this episode, if this was the last episode before Rogue One, you're like, okay, I feel like this show's already given me the clear, like, story progression or the character progression of Cassian. Like, I don't, like, we're there with him. You know what I mean? Like, I don't. It's just sort of clearing up the pieces and just setting the. I don't know.
Maybe he maybe actually does get the job done on Dedra. Maybe that's one thing that will get tied up.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing is, at this stage, if we never even saw her again, I wouldn't even really care, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because the last time you see her, you just see her in such distress and distraught that if they never showed her again, I would just assume that she lives on hating herself. And that's how she lives life.
I do want to see Mon leading the rebellion. I think that's...
Yeah, we're 100...
Like,
yeah, that's...
or, like, dealing with the dynamics of that,
getting
That's
to
a
see
key
her
thing I
like,
want to see.
yeah, getting to see her properly. More of her properly interacting with people there would be good, because even in Rogue One we get like 5 minutes total, maybe.
Yeah, and even that, yeah. I mean, we get, again, it's still a bunch of rebellion leaders and not like a unified group.
Mm.
You know,
Well, I mean, we're gonna jump ahead a year though. Like right
no, but
before,
even in Rogue One, they weren't unified in one voice. You know what I mean?
not fully, but they'll become more unified between the end of this and
Yeah,
is the whole thing. So, yeah, it'll be really
maybe we get
interesting.
Saul Guerrero and his crazy antics. Get to see why. Get to learn how he lost those limbs.
Again, I don't even know. At this stage, that's just a story for another. That's a story for another day. You know,
Maybe we'll see.
Yeah,
I can't think of
all I know is it's going to be good.
Hmm.
That's how I feel about going into next week. I don't know.
I
what
wonder
I want.
if Mon's going
Don't know what
to
I
try
know.
and contact her family.
Nah.
No.
The thing is,
Dead to her.
daughter, father, daughter, husband, even. Who cares? They're both trolls.
Okay.
They're both terrible people. Screw them all. Find out next week when we are back here on Going Rogue talking about the last 3 episodes of Andor, the best Star Wars Disney Plus series. Easily. Stop. Everyone out there, stop trying to even have discussions like it's up for debate. Like, it is the best it's some of the best Star Wars, full stop. Like,
It's Andor and an abyss
yeah.
for the second
then,
place.
Yeah, and then everything else. All right, check out explosionnover.com for all the things over there, including our podcast. You can follow us on Blue Sky at explosionnetwork.com, all the other socials at Explosion Pod, or close enough. Yeah. Until next week, keep rebelling.